Ladies and gentlemen, this is a response to the cut and paste scary new facts on global warming 2009 video by loser mccainisthrough. And it is scary. If you've ever listened to Al Gore for more than say 10 minutes, that is scary. At about the 30-second mark of this cut and paste, Gore begins babbling about the melting of Arctic ice and how it's depleting exponentially. Gore doesn't cite any scientific journals for his points and opts for some PowerPoint slides instead. His entire rant about Arctic ice ends about the 224 mark, and he never cites any specific satellite data, nor does he refer to any scientific journals. Let's deal with Gore's rant about Arctic ice. Gore wants you to think we're at a tipping point, to use an oft-repeated EnviroKook mantra, but we're not. This is not the case. Using spatial sensor microwave imaging, we've learned the Arctic sea ice extent, excluding sea ice concentrations of less than 30%. Again, I'll have all the links on the right side so you can check this out. Unlike mccainisthrough, I do provide references. We've learned that Arctic sea ice extent, excluding sea ice concentrations of less than 30%, was not much different from January 1st, 1989 to January 1st, 2009. The same is true when one looks at January 1st, 2009 and January 1st, 1999. That Arctic ice is coming back just fine every winter. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory had this to say about Arctic sea ice back in September 2008. The total sea ice extent in the Arctic at this time was about 0.5 million square kilometers, larger than that at the same time last year. Do you get that? The total sea ice extent in the Arctic at this time was about 0.5 million square kilometers, larger than that at the same time last year. That difference in sea ice extent amounts to an area the size of Spain. Doesn't look like there's much melting going on there. Remember, this is September, the tail end of summer, and the ice will obviously be reduced, but if you look at the data from February, you'll see a much different picture. During the summer of '08, there was a lot of ice melt going on, as there was the previous year, and the Kool-Aid drinking zombies on the left were wringing their hands about all the ice in the Arctic melting this year, or last year. This didn't occur as they predicted, and it's not often noted that sometimes ice melt occurs because ice drifted into a warmer current. Oh, they never consider that. Not because temperatures spiked. It should also be noted that wind will cause ice to pack, quote unquote pack, and thus reduce areas with at least 15% ice concentrations. This doesn't necessarily mean it melted. It was just packed together in different locations. They never consider that. Gee, the wind might play a role in it. Gore and the idiot who put this video up obviously never considered this either. As far as Gore's rants about ice in Antarctica, he doesn't fare well there either. Sea ice extent in the southern hemisphere in February 2008. The ice covered an area of 3.7 million square kilometers. That was February 2008. Remember, this is the southern hemisphere. Sea ice extent in the southern hemisphere in September 1979. The sea ice covered an area of 18.4 million square kilometers. Sea ice extent in the southern hemisphere in September 2008, the ice covered an area of 18.5 million square kilometers. So there's not much ice melt going on there. It's coming back just fine every winter. In addition, and published in Geophysical Research Letters 31 back in 2004, the authors utilized sea ice concentration data from the Nimbus 7 satellite and the spatial sensor microwave imager on several defense meteorological satellites to develop a quality-controlled history of Antarctic sea ice variability during the solar cycle 1979 to 2002. During this time, El Niño Southern Oscillation events were also observed. The authors report that the extent of Antarctic sea ice, grid boxes covering at least 15% sea ice concentrations, has increased by 4,801 square kilometers per year, and the cumulative ocean area covered by at least 15% ice concentrations has increased even more rapidly, 13,295 square kilometers a year. The authors also note that the areas of 15, 20, and 30% ice concentrations, that's used to define the ice extended area, are increasing as well, and they exceed the 95% confidence level. Here's another possible reason for massive amounts of sea ice melting: volcanoes. When a team of scientists led by Robert Sohn of the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution in Massachusetts finally got a first ever glimpse of the ocean floor 4,000 meters beneath the Arctic pack ice, that's 13,000 feet, they were astonished. What they saw was unmistakable evidence of explosive eruptions rather than the gradual secretion of lava bubbling up from the Earth's mantle onto the ocean floor. Previous research had concluded that this kind of so-called pyroclastic eruption could not happen at such depths due to the crushing pressure of the water. Both sonar and visual images showed an ocean valley filled with flat-topped volcanoes up to 2 kilometers, 1.2 miles wide, and several hundred meters high. I'm pretty sure those volcanoes aren't anthropogenic. I don't know, maybe evil Halliburton got under the Arctic ocean floor and constructed these volcanoes to spur on global warming and further the destruction of our planet. It might be Halliburton. I can't wait for somebody to put up right next to their 9/11 conspiracy video, a conspiracy: Halliburton creates volcanoes in the Arctic. Then the Gore begins blathering about renewable energy and puts the smackdown on so-called clean coal at 4 minutes and 27 seconds. I don't like clean coal either, but for a different reason. For electricity generation, the Energy Information Administration concludes that solar energy is subsidized to the tune of $24.34 per megawatt hour. Wind, $23.37 per megawatt hour. And clean coal, $29.81 per megawatt hour. That's a lot of money. By contrast, normal coal receives, that's normal coal, 44 cents, natural gas a mere quarter, hydroelectric about 67 cents, and nuclear power $1.59. We got 7% of our energy from so-called renewable sources in 2007, including ethanol, wind, solar, ethanol is under biomass, hydroelectric, etc. We got 7% of our energy from so-called renewable sources in 2007, and only 6% of that total came from solar and wind technology, but it was successful at one thing: taking large amounts of taxpayer money. If you want to get even 25% of our energy from solar and wind, it's going to take a lot of land, a lot of subsidies, and a lot of patience from customers during those inevitable rolling brownouts. Gore doesn't give these facts about renewable energy because his audience is largely uneducated on energy issues, and he's preaching to the choir. No need to thank us now, mccainisthrough, for correcting your erroneous cut and paste diatribes again. I would also like to take a moment to ask you, are you ever going to post a response to the I'm voting Republican video I put up, which was a response to your cut and paste video about that? We debunked several of your points, and you've been curiously silent on that. Just wanted to let you know that again, just in case you forgot about it. Don't thank us now.